I would talk to people and engage people in the last 20 years, 25 years by asking this question: what do you know that I don't know that I wouldn't know if I didn't ask? And that puts people back on their heels a little bit, but I want to find out what they know, what they're interested in, what they can be that subject matter expert in. But I want to know what you know that I don't know that I wouldn't know if I didn't ask. And so let me ask you, what do you know that I don't know that I wouldn't know if I didn't ask?
James Pyle, conversations friend, welcome back for superhuman mentoring once again.
Okay. I'm glad to be back.
Well, you have taught me so much about how important it is to come out of my coffin, to begin to engage with humans, and why I would want to do that, and how much more rich and delicious life would become when I do. I've been hearing that not only should I use great questions when I interact with humans, but there's a way to interact without even asking questions. Is that true?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Matter of fact, asking questions is a great way to start a conversation for the most part. But sometimes a conversation can be started without a question, and it's induces people to be more comfortable, maybe to have a conversation if you use that technique.
Well, help me to understand because you've taught me how to ask good questions to start a conversation. And now you're saying something else altogether.
Well, I don't mean to be confusing, but to understand, sometimes if you ask somebody a question, they might have some caution, so that the conversation may not go the way you want, or as deep as you want, because now they're answering questions and giving information, and that creates some caution. What are they going to do with that information? Why are they asking me that question? When you can use elicitation, which is the methodology to start a conversation, and it's just another tool.
My cricket followers heard a new word, elicitation. What is this word, elicitation?
Elicitation is a methodology, is a technique of a conversation where you obtain information, you can get an engagement with someone by not asking a question, just making a statement, making an observation, so that they are feel included and want to respond to what you say.
Well, and what is your connection to elicitation?
Well, I've been most fortunate to be an understudy of Mr. John Nolan when we worked for Phoenix Consulting Group back from 2004 till just about 2010. And he's the author of a book called Confidential, and getting their secrets and keeping yours. And he is the foundation of all things elicitation. And I've been given the honor and the responsibility to train elicitation, to learn elicitation, to share elicitation, and it's a lifestyle with me every day that I engage people.
What do you love most about using elicitation every day?
It helps me have a conversation, and I enjoy conversations. And most people aren't against having a conversation, but they don't know how to start one. And elicitation just opens up most people to a nice, easy conversation, and information can be obtained.
So, are there any other good reasons why I and other people would want to learn about elicitation?
Well, if you have an obligation as a business, for instance, to know information about other businesses, that would be one reason. If you are maybe shy or timid to talk to people, elicitation creates a greater, easier connection. And maybe some people who are timid and shy to talk, that might be their job. So they need help with that. And elicitation is a great tool to connect the two circumstances that way.
Are those kind of people called introverts?
Okay. I think that a lot of people understand that in a lump sum. But I like to think of introverts as not a personality, but just as an energy. And, introverts think to talk, extroverts talk to think out loud. And sometimes they have a clash and a conflict. But if you understand both ends of that, how they complement each other in a business situation or a friendly situation or a family situation, uh, elicitation can bridge that.
Wonderful. So elicitation is good for both introverts and extroverts.
I think so. I believe so, with my hand over my heart.
Well, I do like when hands are over heart.
I
So,
used to see that a lot in my days at Fricky Funeral Home and at Forest Lawn Memorial Park and Graceland Fairlawn Cemetery in Decatur, Illinois.
well, I guess we both had a similar history in how we view humans. Well, tell me more about elicitation. How does one elicit?
Well, I think that the best way to start is to understand that if you see something, say something. That's what I do the most. I get data from people who are walking down the street, who might be wearing big earmuffs in the cold winter, or they might have a crazy colored shoe, or they're wearing some kind of a logo of a sporting team or something. And I will just see what I say, and I'll say, "How about that Ohio football team?" Or "Those shoes make me smile." And people will want to know why that is. Uh, I might even just mimic and say those earmuffs, and the one lady in particular said, "Oh, I just love these. They keep my ears so warm." I didn't ask her if they kept her ears warm. I didn't ask her if she loved them, but that's what she told me when I just mimicked her earmuffs, so that it just causes people to respond to me. I don't have to ask a question and get an answer. I just have to an engagement and usually just making an observation. If I'm standing in line and it's Monday, I'll say, it just feels like Monday. Well, it is Monday, but I'm just making a statement about what's obvious. And people say, yeah, I hate Mondays, or, well, yeah, it is Monday, but tomorrow I'm off. I get something back always from a provocative statement, which is one of the methodologies of elicitation.
Okay, the crickets want to know what a provocative statement is.
That's a statement I make about the observation I see, or what I'm thinking, or what I'm feeling, and that I think would be engaging with someone else, and so that provokes them to respond, to say something. There was a lady in the post office at Christmas time several years ago. She had a big stack of packages, and I say, "Ma'am, for Christmas you must have too many friends." Well, that wasn't the case. It was packages for her daughter, but there was so much packed in that because there was anxiety and anxiousness and some anger. And she told me all about why she's sending these packages, and these are the last packages she's ever going to send for Christmas. And everybody that's listening in line at the post office is listening to a lot of information that I didn't ask for, but I provoked just by making that observation.
Wow. Well, I'm going to take a stab at repeating back what I've understood so far.
A stab.
So, what I've understood is when you are out and about with humans, you're looking for data, you're observing data. And when you say data, you mean it's things that they are showing you about
Yes.
themselves,
Yes.
maybe what they're wearing
Hmm.
or various other things that give you information or
Yeah.
data. And from that, instead of asking them a question, you make a statement.
Yes.
And that statement is meant to provoke them
Hmm.
into sharing more of themselves with you. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yesterday, I walked out of the Fort Belvoir Memorial Hospital on Fort Belvoir, and there was a lady in a wheelchair and an older husband carrying a couple extra bags, and he was going to walk out to get his car to drive to pick up his wife. Well, I observed that that the whole situation there, And as he and I walked out together out the main doorway there, I said, "Somebody's going home." He says, "Yeah, I'm finally," and I got a little bit of background about why she was there. And I just wanted to find out where he's from because his voice didn't sound, I couldn't locate where he might be from. New York people or Alabama people are easy. The people in the Midwest and around. So I said, you sound like your voice might be tuned to the Midwest. He said, "Nope, I'm born in Alexandria, lived here all my life. Matter of fact, I live in the house that my parents owned. And so to this day, it's the only house I've ever lived in." And that's just from a conversation of about 45 seconds, walking out to the parking lot without ever asking a question and getting that information, that engagement, and making that observation.
Wow, that's very inspiring because it sounds as if you got much closer to that human making a statement rather than asking a question.
Yeah, yeah. That's all right. It works. I promise you, it works. Uh, I like to think it's like they say in Latin, ipso, piso, caco. It's a piece of cake.
Oh, I've only recently had cake. That sounds wonderful. So, as you tell me that story and you tell me what you said, I immediately imagine myself asking that as a question. I think my habit would be to say, "Are you from the Midwest?"
Sure.
So, would I now be retraining myself to turn what would have been a question into a statement?
I think so, and it's not very difficult. Just eliminate the question in your mentality. I was in the airport coming home from Chicago after the football championship, college football championship between Ohio State and Notre Dame. And in the hotel, as I was checking out, was a gentleman sitting at breakfast with a Notre Dame logo on his shirt. I said, "Well, it's not the best day that you could hope for after this morning." And he concurred, and I showed empathy. I didn't ask him, "Well, how do you feel about them losing?"
Mm-hmm.
But
Exactly.
and
That
then of
would have been a
course,
question that I would have asked.
yeah, and then of course, in the airport, then I see a gentleman with his son and someone else, and they're wearing Ohio State logos, and I said, "Somebody's happy today." And he said, "Sure enough, it's blah 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 blah." It goes on, but I always get a response um, when I'm at a store and I make a purchase. I would always say, "Well, you can go home now because I'm done." And the first response I would get is either, "Well, I just got here. I've got 8 hours to go," or, "Yep, you're right. In about 30 more minutes, I'm out of here." And so I get some kind of a response. But for that little moment, I've given them the day off and it feels good for a second. And then you realize, well, no, I've still got to work or I just got here to work. But I give people the day off just to get a little response and things like that.
Wow. So, what I'm hearing today is that the king of great questioning, James Pyle, also loves or perhaps even prefers to make statements.
I do. I do. I think it's a higher level of conversation. And I have been involved with interrogation, okay, which is a controlled environment with a person who doesn't have many options other than to talk to me, and that's a different question circumstance.
I'm used to that
Uh,
myself.
and so the I prefer to engage with a conversation, even in interrogation is just a conversation with some different requirements, different circumstances. Most people I talk to now from now on don't have to talk to me, but I make it so they want to talk to me. You can lead a horse to water, you cannot make that horse drink. The secret is to make them thirsty and they'll drink all by themselves. And that's what I think elicitation does to give me that conversation I'm looking for.
So, you make people thirsty for conversation. That's why you're conversation's friend.
And I make sure that they're aware that I'm interested, and I turn an ear, and I make sure that I furl a brow, and make a smile, and listening. so that they are comfortable talking to me.
So that's where
There's
you
a lot
bring
of body
in,
language involved with this as well.
so that's where our previous conversation about body language skills or body talk comes in. You will accent your listening
Hmm.
with your body language. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, yes. And you're doing it right now too, putting your hands up, open up and talking to me and showing me that you're engaged and you're interested so that so conversations have to have all of those elements to be as good as they can be. Data exchange is just information exchange, and that's boring to me. I like to see how far I can go. I like to see what I can know, and I don't use that information, aggressively or with a purpose. But I get to test my skill to get conversations, and I will be going on a cruise uh, a week from today. I'll be in Miami, traveling from Miami to Southampton, England, and those 12 days, I'm going to be talking to people everywhere on that ship and using elicitation. And then there's times when questions are very appropriate, but usually not at the beginning of that conversation.
Well, tell me more about that. Which you use when and why?
Okay. Um, if I'm just generally engaging people, it's going to be elicitation. Uh, I'm going to make an observation about our environment. It's a hot day today, or it's a cold day today, windy, or whatever, something that we have in common so that I can engage people. If that engagement goes to another level of conversation and they're interested in me and we have exchanged information about myself, about them, and they're comfortable to talk, then I might ask a question, and I won't ask for permission. You've heard these people. You've heard people. You've said it yourself. You mind if I ask you a question? Well, you've had to ask a question to ask a question. That's a waste of time. So I just ask the question if I have a question, and don't ask for permission or don't give a preamble to, well, I want to ask a question kind of thing. So question just is as I do it. But that might mean to be more specific. So you lived in Decatur, Illinois. Where in Decatur did you live? So that becomes a more specific, and that helps to further the conversation. If somebody's from Alton, Illinois, where I grew up as the youngest kid till I was 10, I would want to know where they lived in Alton compared to where I live. And then I would tell where I lived and I would tell them my memories of that. And that might provoke them to do the same. So that's a quid pro quo. And that's an element of elicitation as well. I give you some information about me, and you almost might feel like you have an obligation to give me that same information back. And so that's how that works as well. I'm willing to open up a little bit about me, and you do the same as a mirror response.
Wow. So does that mean there are different ways to elicit, and one of them is called quid pro quo?
Yes. And there's about 13 in the book Confidential by John Nolan. And if I can say this, uh, John last year gave me all the printed copies of the book that's still left uncirculated. This book is essential. It's not the Bible, but it's a codex. It's the bottom line of elicitation.
Well, the Vampire Bank is very grateful that you have shared this book with me. And for those that would like their own copies, how can they get that too?
If you'll be kind enough to include my email at the end of this podcast, ccjamespyle@gmail.com, I'll be glad to assist anybody who'd like to get a copy.
Well, James, as a vampire, I'm always interested in deep secrets. By any chance, is there a deep secret at the heart of elicitation?
If you're asking me, maybe not everybody else, but if you're asking me, the secret to elicitation is curiosity. I want to know what people know. I want to know what people think. I want to know how people feel. And that curiosity to me is king. That curiosity to me is the driver. That curiosity to me can't be turned off. And if I could teach curiosity, I wouldn't have to. I wouldn't have to work much more than I do these days. But it's not a natural thing, and you got to want to know, and maybe you have a need to know. But curiosity will drive you to conversation. Curiosity will drive you to engagement, and that's my driver.
How did you discover your curiosity?
Uh, it probably goes back to my childhood. We're all just kids grown up with silver hair, and so I think I was the last of five kids. My two older sisters are much older than me, and my two older brothers were 2 years and 2 years more older than me. And being the last kid in line, your brothers and sisters all have other friends who they are engaged with, and so you find yourself a little lonely. And maybe your parents don't engage you as much as some parents do. So you find conversation with anybody, everybody that's willing to talk to you, school and friends and such. So that I think there was part of that need to have conversations, to have engagements that didn't naturally happen in my home environment.
Well, that's very encouraging to me because it sounds as if you weren't born curious. You evolved your curiosity out of a need to
Okay,
connect.
what I'm telling you is really genuine and true as I look back. And just like I did when I realized that I was learning body language from animated movies as a kid, it took me looking back to see what I learned about body language as a young person that I didn't even realize till now, in the last 15 years anyway, that I've really engaged in body language and animation and that kind of thing. So,
Wow. So if vampires or humans would like to cultivate curiosity, how would they do that?
well, I have a question that I ask of a lot of people that has been a real it's been almost a mantra, and I can share that with you if you think that it has some merit.
Oh, I'd love that.
All right. Well, so I would talk to people and engage people in the last 20 years, 25 years by asking this question: what do you know that I don't know that I wouldn't know if I didn't ask? And that puts people back on their heels a little bit. But I want to find out what they know, what they're interested in, what they can be that subject matter expert in. I mean, I have some expertise that just a few things that I know more than anybody else knows. Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, I know more about it than most everybody you'll ever meet. Merle Haggard, with my 75 long play albums, and following him for years and meeting him eventually, thanks to the U.S. Army. I know a lot about him. And the Indianapolis 500 is been part of my coming out life since 1963, and so to this day, it is something I know more about than most people. So I know these things, but I want to know what you know that I don't know that I wouldn't know if I didn't ask. And so let me ask you, as a former vampire of the night, what do you know that I don't know that I wouldn't know if I didn't ask?
Well, as a vampire, I do live for a millennium. So I have an incredible collection of things, as I told you, woolly mammoth and a cave woman and a museum. And I have also witnessed the cycles of time and so many experiences accumulated that I could share now with humans.
Well, with my questioning and my elicitation and my curiosity, I could stay really busy talking to you.
Well, then we can have a lot of FUN in the future, can't we?
Yes, yes, yes.
If I've understood you, you prefer to engage people with statements to gather information, to learn about them and understand them better with empathy.
Hmm.
And then when you really want to know, you want to extract, like a vampire, the essence of that person, you will ask this signature targeted question. Is that correct?
Sure. Yeah. Now, what do you really know that I don't know that I would know if I didn't ask? I can even be more specific. But you know what? Also, I can bridge that, and it's kind of like a quid pro pro, like we talked about earlier. I say, what do you think I know that you don't know that you would know if you didn't ask me? So it goes both ways. It engages them it encourages them, and it challenges them to ask me questions and to know things about me. So there's a balance to that.
Wow. So I imagine you'd need some time with the first part of your question for them to answer. And I imagine that you'd spend time receiving what it is that they know that you wouldn't have known if you didn't ask.
Hmm.
And then if there's enough time, you'll segue into the second part where you'll share what you know, such as
Sure,
Merle
because
Haggard and Forest Lawn Memorial Cemetery.
yeah, or anything else that they want to know about my army experience or my family or you know those kind of things. It could be anything, but it works. It's a real good exchange, conversation exchange that has worked for me over the years, and I lean on it, and it supports me in given circumstances at different times.
Well, as a vampire, I will say there is a way of getting into the essence of conversation with this question that intrigues me. And perhaps we'll have to make you an honorary human vampire of conversation.
Well, I like to draw the, the information out. Uh, and maybe there's these are my fangs. These are my tools. These are my venue. This is my venue for that kind of thing. And of course, then there's the greatest question of all
Really?
that I've discovered. I didn't discover it. No, I'm take that back. That I realize is truly the greatest question ever asked, and it's
Even
only
better than that one.
yes, oh yes, and it's only two words
Wow.
and a question mark. It's the shortest
Please tell
question,
me.
the most important question, and it's called "What if?" Everything that's ever happened, good and or bad, for humankind over the millennia has been answered by the question, "What if?" What if we do this and we can fly? What if we do this and people are healed? What if we do this and people come together? It is the greatest question that was ever asked. And the subject and the verb come together. But the first two words and a question mark is what really makes the greatest question. What if?
That's incredible. It is a question that invites possibility and imagination in
Mhm.
all possibilities, really, and limitless imagination.
Yeah. So that's the best thing I know today after all the things we've talked about, to ask that question in your life. What if I do this? What if I think this? What if I allow this? It could be any kind of scenario, but what if is a great driver.
Incredible. And do you use that when you engage with other humans? You ask them, what if, or is that a question you ask yourself?
No, that's not a question I ask often. It's just a question I realized over man's existence that has affected humankind from the beginning to now. It has answered it has created all that we have here today. It all come from what if. What if we
Wow.
do this? What if we think this? What if we allow this? What if we be this? But it's what if.
It strikes me that perhaps it's a quantum question that has driven human evolution
Well, so
across
see
time
now
and
now
space.
Yeah, now you're taking it to I'm simple, two words with a question mark, but you took it and embellished it and expanded it and made it sound scientific and gave it a great a regal feel.
So, if I've understood you today, James, you've taught me the deepest, most powerful philosophical question, what if, that has driven human innovation and possibility through the ages. You've also taught me your signature question of all questions that you use as you connect and engage with other humans. And that is, what do you know that I wouldn't know if I didn't ask? And that is a question. Is there a way to come to know that using elicitation instead without asking the question?
The question itself, I probably use very little. The spirit of the question is what is the driver. That curiosity that Brian Grazer talks about in his book, A Curious Mind, and I talk about to students always, is that you want to know. Maybe your job is to need to know, but it's more of a driver than the actual phrasing of the question, because I want to know what they know, and I need to ask them questions, or I need to provoke them through elicitation to get that, so that you may not hear me say those words as much as you feel that conversation leading to that and ending with that.
So that question, you did say it was a mantra for you. It's a personal
Yeah,
driver, personal
yeah,
motivator
yeah.
that keeps your engine revving in the direction, finding out all you can in every connection with another human.
Sure, and that has created great friendships over the years. It's helped to understand people, where they are, why they are, what's going on, so that it helps relationships. It helps in every way. I think in a good way.
Mm. Well, I do have to ask you one of your own questions now as we close this conversation.
Okay.
What else?
That's the easiest thing to teach, the hardest thing to learn. Follow up. Every question that you ask, if you get an answer, needs to be asked again. And that's called follow up. Where are you going? I'm going to town. Where else are you going? That just comes natural to me. What'd you do today? What else did you do today? That's come natural to me. Why do you think that? Why else do you think that? That comes natural to me. Uh, who were you with last night for dinner? Who else were you with last night? It just comes natural. But to me, over 40 years now of training, questioning, and that, it's the easiest thing to say and the easiest thing to teach, but the hardest thing for students to learn. So there's six interrogatives: who, what, where, when, how, and why. And there's really 12, because who is who else, where else, why else. There's really 12 interrogatives if you sequence them out that way. So thank you for allowing me that stage for that, and that I'll leave you with that. That if you ask a question, get an answer, ask that question again, because there's usually more information to be found.
Great. And I'm also going to test what I've learned with you today by seeing how I can turn what I want to say or want to ask now into a provocative statement instead of a question.
Okay.
So I can hardly imagine what it's going to be like to use the signature question that I learned today from James Pyle. What do you know that I wouldn't know if I didn't ask?
That's that sets the stage, and it presents the subject, and you framed it well.
Wonderful. Well, there's so much to learn from you, and you are 100% the king of questioning, 100% the king of elicitation.
The prince. John Nolan's the king.
Okay. Good. Well, I hope that together we will spend some time with John Nolan learning and extracting his knowledge for the benefit of other humans.
Perhaps.
Thank you again for joining me today, for mentoring me. I am so honored to know a superhuman like you, James Pyle.
All righty. By the by.
What's the vegan vampire's secret of learning from others?
I don't know.
She's Nosferatu really curious.